guys. We are so glad you've come to listen about men and wellness. We have put together a few different things tonight or today on men and their health. This is Aaron Stout. He has been working with the OCD and Anxiety Treatment Center for
a little over 2 years now.
A little over 2 years. He's one of our specialists, and he is amazing. He has a real knack, and he works a lot with our youth. And maybe you can tell me a little bit about, or tell everybody a little bit about yourself, more than what I already just did.
Yeah, I've been here 2 years. I work with the youth program. And I absolutely love it. The idea of kind of what we do here, of learning to address problems and then learn to manage those, really just makes sense and agrees with my whole view of being able to support people.
Yeah. Well, so one of the reasons why I thought it'd be good for Aaron to be on is he's a man. He has a man's perspective of mental health. And with this month being Awareness Month, we wanted to talk a bit about something that a lot of people don't even realize. And one of those things is that men can also have problems. I know my wife will tell me that she doesn't think I can ever be wrong, or that I have no problems. I would imagine she's saying it sarcastically, but it is true. And what I have realized is that we men very often just have to keep moving forward no matter the situation. We don't get this luxury of taking a rest. If I am the breadwinner of my home, I have to bring the money in. And if I'm having a bad day, my bank who holds my mortgage doesn't care. They don't care at all. They just say, when are you going to pay your payment? And here's a late fee because you were not feeling well that day. And so the pressure mounts. And at some point, it does come out. And I see it coming out in irritation, in frustration, little patience, disconnection. I don't know if I've taken all from you, but how else have you seen where signs that a man may be being past his limit?
I notice for me, it's a lot of just general frustration checking out. I notice that like when I'm at work, I'm less present with people I'm working with, or I'm at home playing with my daughter, I'm kind of there, but also resentful about it. And then that creates this other kind of stressor of like being like, well, I need to fix this piece on top of all this other stress that's happening. And so I notice it when I'm just disconnecting from life. And I also notice it when I start avoiding. Like I just look for ways to get out of situations and to try to fix things in this very bizarre, ineffective way.
Right. And so having that disconnection, obviously the kids are going to feel it, the family's going to feel it, the spouse is going to feel it. And then comes irritation back at us, which then also then just perpetuates the cycle. So now in our clinic, we meet with people who have stress. They also have anxiety. They may have OCD or generalized anxiety or whatever it is. How do you make the decision, Aaron, between that this is just a stressful situation and this has become something more? It's taking a bigger impact in their life and maybe even diagnosable.
I think time for me would be the measure that I would use. If I'm stressed at work and I'm able to kind of identify those things that I'm stressed at work about and kind of solve those problems, and then that stress goes away, I would say that I would put that in that kind of category of stress. I would start moving it into this more kind of anxiety disorder kind of category if I'm still thinking about it, or I'm still worried about like what happened. I've solved the problem. I talked to my boss. I did this thing. And then I go home and I'm still worried about it. And then that's all I'm talking about at home with my wife, or I'm thinking about it 2 weeks after the fact I've solved the problem, and I feel like maybe I could have something different. And so if I notice that, for me, it would just be this idea that it's taking up more time and space in my life, even though I might have addressed it, or I might have kind of found a way to manage that piece.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly right. And one piece I would add to that is also the intensity. So not only is it not going away, like Aaron mentioned, but the intensity that I'm experiencing it is higher than what others may be experiencing for the same thing. So, for example, if I can't pay my mortgage on my home, that's going to be very stressful. I probably am not going to sleep very well. I'm not probably eating very well. And if that's a normal situation, I would imagine that, that fight or flight.
Yeah.
But let's say I've blown it with my child. I've hurt them emotionally, and I feel the same intensity of feeling as though I haven't paid my mortgage, and they're going to come and take my home from me. And then the next day, it's still there, and the next day, maybe it's even worse. And so recognizing that you guys have a problem, or we all may have a problem, it is critical to accept that we can have problems and that it's okay. We are not invincible. And really, I think society creates this idea of, pick yourself up with your bootstraps and just move on no matter what. And they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. And so just because people may feel like you're being weak to do something about what's happening to you doesn't actually make you weak. In fact, I would say it makes you more powerful, makes you be able to live life and do something that this distress is getting in your way of being able to do. And so I guess the first call to action is deciding, are you going to be a tough guy, or are you going to decide that it's okay for me to admit that I'm not dealing with it well? And if I'm not dealing with it well, then I've got to do certain things about it. Just moving forward can't be the option, or taking a minute of time to deal with it also isn't enough time. I think there's that also. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, I mean, as you were talking, the only thing I could think about was sports, like playing sports, like football and lacrosse. There's always this idea of like, if you get injured, walk it off, go back in the game. And there's like this idea that life is kind of this game that if I just work hard enough, I will win. And that also during this very stressful process, I'm not allowed to also have emotions other than kind of anger. Right? I learned that anger for me in sports was very appropriate because it motivated me or it created something different. And at the end of the day, like there are just, when you, like in terms of the sports metaphor, like there's teams that are better and you can't always be the best. And that anger only gets you so far. And after a while, it kind of just gets in the way and you get stuck. And, you don't have to be stuck, because that when you get stuck, it just creates so many ineffective things. And so actually admitting that there's a problem and wanting to do something about it does not say that you are bad or it's a moral issue, that there is something going on and you want to do better. And I think that is admirable, because I think most people acknowledge that there is something happening and then don't do anything about it other than have this kind of insight that is damaging.
Right. Well, and so once you have decided to do something about it, I think that there's a lot of different directions you can go. Here in our clinic, I think the first thing I do, I give 5 different tools, and these aren't the only tools you can use, and these are outside of therapy or medication that you can do that will make a difference. And the first is eating, eating right. And are we overeating? Are we under eating? Think of your brain as this machine that needs to be fueled. And are you not taking care of that? How about sleep? Are you getting 8 hours of sleep? No matter it doesn't matter how much you have to do, you also need to be able to get enough sleep in. It makes a difference. Do you take time relaxing? Do you take a break? And relaxing, in my mind, is not laying on the couch, taking a nap, watching TV. This relaxing is, have you gone on a walk? Go hiking. How about go out your backyard? How about painting? Do lacrosse.
Right.
Um, and there's a few others like socializing, getting out of the house, being around people. Truly, the last thing you're going to want to do when you're not feeling well is getting around people. And really, you won't regret it. I would imagine very rarely will you ever, after going out with friends, say, "Man, I really shouldn't have done that. I could have. That was some good Netflix missing. I just did." I don't think so. Another couple things, talents and hobbies. What are you good at? If you are stressing about something, do you give yourself something else to think about? That if I'm only focusing on what I'm worried about, guess what? I'm going to keep worrying about it. And I remember I was living in Argentina, and there was this man that told me while I was having issues with my knee. He was telling me, he said, you keep focusing on your knee, and if you keep focusing on your knee, well, guess what? Your knee's going to keep hurting. In fact, I'd imagine your knee's going to even hurt more. And that was really eye opening to me. It's like, yeah, if I keep focusing on it, it's not that I'm trying to ignore the fact that my knee's hurting, but why does it have to be the centerpiece of my life? And so, truly, these 5 things are just things that people will. It's like one of the first things to go. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your needs. I mean, think about it for yourself. If you were feeling distressed, how many of you aren't taking care of some of these things? And so, is there any secret hints or tricks up your sleeve to get people to actually do these things they know they're supposed to do but aren't doing them?
It's making time for those things. And I think a lot of times when we think about hobbies or talents or socializing, we make it this big thing. Like it needs to be this, well, I need to go on a vacation. I need to do a staycation. I need to get out of the state. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of stuff can just happen at home. Like, what do you do to find that thing that works for you? And I also think a lot of times, as you talked about at the beginning, Paul, like being that breadwinner, there's a lot of stress there. And then if I'm having problems, I'm not allowed to have problems. I have to do all this other stuff. So then if I add self-care or kind of managing these other things, it feels like I'm being selfish and I'm now have all these responsibilities. And then I had some problems and now I have to take care of myself. Like feels like we're adding onto the plate. But if you're able to do those things that are actually important to you, the other things start getting better. So I know for me, when I start feeling kind of overwhelmed and stressed, I have to go fly fishing.
That's not too bad.
And it takes time. But if I don't carve that time out for me, then it really affects my relationships, it affects my work performance, and it affects my life in a way that I don't want it to. So I have to carve out time. So sometimes it's waking up really early
right,
to get to the river so then I can still do the other things I need to do, like kind of that not avoiding the problem, right? I need to take care of myself and also not avoid the problem. And I also know for me, like it's hard to make eating a priority. It's much easier just to go to McDonald's than spend an extra 40 minutes cooking something for the next day, or it's, getting sleep, staying up and doing notes. But I have to make things priorities and put them into actual times so that I can do them. And then I also, once I filled that time, move on to the next thing is what I found is helpful for me. But if I don't make it a priority, it will never happen.
Right. So I would say for years, I tell clients, when are you going to do it? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do when you get there? How long are you going to take? Unless you slot that out, it's likely not going to happen. And in the end, you may say, well, like Aaron was saying, oh, I don't have time to do all these things. But are you looking for quantity or are you looking for quality of life? Because quantity, oh, I got a lot done. I was a total jerk to my spouse. I was detached to my children. I am not enjoying anything really in life. but I got it done. Isn't that great?
Right.
It's like, it's not the madness. I mean, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should.
Right.
At what point do we say, I gotta quit trying to do too much? And I'll give an example. This weekend, I was on a trip and I brought my laptop, and I forgot my power cord. And truly, this is the first vacation I've gone on in I don't know how long where I couldn't work. It wasn't an option. I ran out of my battery within the first 2.5 hours of my trip because I was using my laptop on my vacation.
Right.
And then I didn't have the option. And I'll tell you, coming back from the trip, it's been amazing. I feel so rejuvenated. And you know what? I didn't get so much done. I didn't get tons done. And you know what happened? Nothing. The world didn't end. The world continues on, even though I didn't finish everything I was supposed to finish. Think about it. How often do you actually lose that job, or spouse says, I'm done, or your friends are like, no more in my life. You're not going to be in our life. Like, that just doesn't happen. People will understand. And if they don't, they probably shouldn't be in your life anyway. so, and so, truly, like Aaron said, you gotta make the time to have this happen. And I imagine that you are likely looking at these things and saying, I have already tried and maybe haven't succeeded. And that's, maybe you take one of these things that I just gave and see what you can do with that. Life is a journey. It is not all to be done this moment. So what if I'm going to eat 3 meals a day and only I eat at McDonald's once during the week?
And I think it's really hard to get caught up in short term versus long term. I think when we look at long term goals, those are the ones that we really want. And we like, I want to have this done, I want this done, I want this done. And then we don't create a way to actually get to solve that actually big goal. And so I think when we just say, I want to eat healthy, we kind of look at this very long term game, and that's overwhelming. There's no way to succeed if we're not also not looking like, what am I doing each day? Like, do I have snacks? As silly as that sound, like if I don't have snacks in my office, I know it's going to be harder for me to eat healthy, because then I just kind of go like, well, I need to run to the gas station real quick and grab something.
Right.
And so I have to make these smaller chunks of, I need snacks, I need to have some food. And then, yeah, I do maybe get out once a week or twice a week. And if I don't hit that goal, I also have to take it as a learning opportunity to go, great, what can I do different this next week, versus going, well, I failed, I don't get to do it anymore.
Right. And so I know we're running out of time here, but it has to happen. There's not an option. Take care of yourself, or take care of yourself. If you don't, you'll pay the consequences, but so will everybody else.
I mean, it's kind of like the don't kick the dog thing. Like if you are upset at work and you're just not managing it very well, and you're not taking care of yourself, you kind of something it gets taken out on, and it's usually the thing that doesn't deserve it.
Right. And so figure something out, do it. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was, people can't know that you need help unless you communicate. And I find that many women are phenomenal communicators. They can just talk away, and we men are less likely to be as good as them in this department. But we need to be better. We need to be able to say, this is what I need. This is what I need to do. This is what's happening to me right now. And as I am getting irritated, maybe I don't realize I'm getting irritated, and I need my friend or spouse or partner to say something, and that's for me to then communicate like, wow, I am running at about a 7 out of 10 of distress nonstop all day today, and thank you for mentioning that. You know what I need to do? Give me a half an hour. I'm just going to go take a walk outside, and you might say, well, I don't have time because I promised I'd help make dinner. And I wonder, would making dinner be the better option, or kicking the dog be the better option? because ultimately it turns into one or the other. And so, and then truly the last one is finding somebody that can help you with it. Finding the support, whether it is coming to a therapist, seeing somebody awesome like Aaron, or finding a family member who can help you and support you and keep you accountable. Because it's hard to keep yourself accountable when it's just you. There's strength in numbers. And so what we wanted to do is just take maybe 5-10 minutes and answer any questions that you guys might have. And so I open that up to any of you to ask any questions. Let's see if I can. We've only debacled almost every webinar that we've done. See if we can find how we get these questions showing here. So, Aaron, maybe I can have you take this one. You can read the question that's been asked.
Yeah. How as spouses can we help our husbands through this process? Maybe kindly bringing awareness. I love this question because it's actually this very interesting dance, because I think a lot of times when we bring awareness around a problem or an issue, it sometimes creates shame. And I think some of that shame comes from just those weird stressors that just happen from being like a male. Like, I need to be the breadwinner. I can't have more than a couple emotions. I can't be weak. And so I think the thing that's helpful in terms of bringing overall awareness would be starting with validating what they're saying. Right? I think if we can start from this place of being able to say, oh, I see you and I hear you, without necessarily pushing on that we need that change, it creates less tension overall, where they can just say what's happening, that you can go, wow, thank you for telling me that. I didn't know that was happening. I'm very glad that you shared that with me. Because if we get kind of caught up in the need to fix this right away, we lose a lot of opportunity to actually let that person talk about what's happening in their lives. And then if they ask for, hey, I don't know how to fix this, can you help me? Then yes, we insert that like, let's try this, let's do this. But we can just take that step back and just hear what they're saying and then validate. I think that creates a lot more change in the relationship and that overall support than just trying to fix it immediately.
Right. And so another question here is, what can I do as someone who works in the mental health field to help advocate for men's mental health, specifically in acute care centers, behavioral health units? Well, I think that I think being able to normalize that men are not Superman, and that it's okay to not be Superman. I think that if you are a male in this field, be able to practice what you preach. Be vulnerable, be able to communicate. It is so empowering when you don't have to hold it all in. And so I think that's one. I think the other is helping people understand that difference between this level of distress and this level of distress, because everybody can have stress, but when it gets up to that upper level, it's a whole different experience. And if you could see on the outside what's happening on the inside, I think a lot of the spouses would treat their their spouse or partner differently, because they're like, wow, you look like you got this metal bar sticking out of your head. I probably would be more than just irritated right now. I too would be shut down.
Right.
But because you can't see that, and because, wow, they went to work, they got gas in their car, they paid this bill, they picked up the dog doo-doo in the backyard and without even kicking the dog. I mean, they did all this stuff. So why can't they be just fine now? And so, any other questions that you have?
Yeah. I think to go off kind of what you were saying is just really modeling that behavior that you want. I would probably say I cry at least 7 times a week, like in therapy or in group settings. And it's because whatever's happening is happening. And then I use that as a teaching experience to say, like, you know what, like, this is hard for me. One, because it's in front of a group of people, but also because like I feel like as a male, I'm not allowed to do this. And so every time I have a chance to model that behavior, I really try to model it so that the fathers in the room or the males in the room can see like, oh wow, this person is willing to kind of do that thing that they're asking me to do, like to be vulnerable as well.
Right. And hey, I wanted to go back to that question that you first answered, Aaron. I had another thought about it, which was, let's see if I can I can see it on here.
How to help spouses.
Yeah. As spouses, how can we help our husbands through this process? I think that you can be sincere, and I think sometimes that's not enough, being sincere, but and I think, like you had said, they could, a man can very often feel threatened, or they feel like they're failing in some way because they aren't getting it all together. They're not figuring it all out. And what I'd say is that there's more than just trying to talk sense into them. What if you just give them a hug and just hold them and cry with them? And when they try to push you off, don't let go. Just keep holding them. And I love Aaron shares. I've seen him crying, and it's cathartic to have those emotions. And, I have had people practice being vulnerable. And it's something, instead of in that moment trying to be vulnerable, practice being vulnerable and not so tough. What if they're not, that tough all the time? And so what I have said for years is we want to be able to do in the moment the very thing we're supposed to do, yet we have never prepared or practiced the thing we're supposed to do. What if we give ourselves a moment to prepare before the battle? And so before I'm irritated, before I'm annoyed, I practice that. And then the other part I also wanted to add is as a spouse, maybe you tell them, not only do you hold them or tell them that you love them, but that you need them to do this. And that here are all the things that you do to sacrifice for the family. Well, maybe this is something they can do to sacrifice for the family as well. And I think that's a different way of ever thinking about it for most men. It's like, wait a second, me being vulnerable, actually sacrificing is a way to sacrifice for the family? How is that? Because that just seems like the opposite. And I say no, because guess what? I get to be a nicer father, a nicer person, more energy, want to engage, be a part of things. And that is where the real sacrifice comes, because I get to be that person that everybody wants me to be. And so, but we really appreciate talking to you guys today and sharing this information on men's health. We look forward to coming out next month with another topic. And if you're interested we're going to be posting this on YouTube. We'd love for you to like it and share it and even subscribe. So thank you and have a wonderful day.